please silence your phones. And the Jews have taken to doing it for ceremonies, for events, for classes. It's a beautiful thing.
Excuse me, I'm
So,
sorry.
please silence your
I
phone.
better silence my phone because it's recording you, but I haven't silenced it.
See, aren't you glad I reminded you all of it?
Yeah.
Okay, you can start. So this is an experiment. So thank you for participating in this experiment with me. Here is the genesis of this experiment. Last summer, Pardes Institute, which is an institute of Jewish studies in Yerushalayim, convened the first ever seminar for Tefilah educators anywhere in the world. Now, Tefilah educator is actually a new term because until recently, we didn't educate teachers in how to teach Tefilah. We had Chumash teachers, we had Gemara teachers, and we said, okay, now first thing in the morning, go teach Tefilah. And finally it occurred to people that Tefilah is a different discipline. If you're trained to teach Chumash, it doesn't necessarily mean you can teach Gemara. But we all assume that everybody can teach Tefilah. And it doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
So, see, Shalva knows, right?
I never wanted to teach Tefilah because I knew it's very, very different.
Very different and very difficult. Think of us as grown-ups. Al achat kama v'kama, how much more so to take an adolescent and say, for 45 minutes a day, we want you to sit in a room, say words you may not know, to an entity you can't see, you can't feel, and you're not really sure you believe in. So we need to develop the discipline of Tefilah education, and we need to develop Tefilah educators. And out of this seminar last summer came a number of ideas, and I've run with a number of the ideas in my school. So, for example, one of the things I've started with the children is a Tefilah elective, where they can express themselves liturgically in ways other than just saying the Tefilah. We still say the Tefilah. But they have a choice of Tefilah through art, where we'll take a particular Tefilah and have them study it, L'mashal Ma Tovu, and then they will express their connection to Ma Tovu in artwork. We have a Tefilah elective called God Talk, because adolescents are, well, I don't know if I believe in God, so who am I praying to, right? We have write your own Tefilah. We all know that in Shema Kolenu we can add our Tefilah, but it takes practice. What is it that we want to ask for? So rather than doing it on the fly, we walk the kids through. How do we want to write a Tefilah? How were Tehillim written? What would we want to say to God if we're writing our own Tefilah? And one of the things that we realized is that there should be dispositions in Tefilah. This is where Maslow's hierarchy of needs comes from. And if you'll notice, I called this class Creating Meaningful Tefilah. The vast majority of people in this room, if not everybody, we know how to daven. We walk into shul, we hear Baruch Shamar, we know where to turn, we know we've already done Mizmor Shir Chanukah Bayit, but we're not up to Ashrei yet. We know when to stand, we know when to sit. That doesn't make it meaningful. We need to make Tefilah meaningful. And so the first model I went to was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As Barbara mentioned, it was on the TED Hour yesterday, and so I'm just going to go through this very quickly. On the handouts, it explains the hierarchy of needs because it's a brilliant system. We may not agree with all of his levels, but the idea of these levels itself is brilliant. What Maslow posited, and Maslow is a 20th century psychologist, we're all trying to achieve self-actualization, becoming the best people we can be. But you can't start with self-actualization. We start with physiological needs. If one is homeless and your stomach is growling because you haven't eaten in 3 days, you can't worry about self-actualization. You're going to be worried about where is your next meal coming from, what are you going to wear, and where are you going to sleep. Only when this need is taken care of can people begin to worry about safety and security. Am I secure in my neighborhood? Am I secure in my home? Am I secure in my relationships? Am I secure financially? And only when we have achieved safety and security can we worry about interrelationships. Can we worry about our socializing? Again, go back and think. If you don't have a roof over your head and you have no food in your belly, you can't worry about how much your next door neighbor loves you, because the first thing you want to look for is food. So after this is the loving and the belonging, the becoming a member of a community, the accomplishing a significant relationship in your life. After this, we grapple with esteem. How do I feel about myself? That's when we start looking inside and saying, who am I? What do I do well? What do I not do well? How can I do better? How can I feel better about myself? You know, on social media now, one of my favorite things, first world problems. Oh my God, which pair of shoes should I buy? First world problems. And too many people take it as a joke. Yeah, it really is a joke, because so much of the world today is still down here worrying about this. We really want to worry about which pair of shoes I should buy. But that is a first world problem. And once we have achieved the esteem, then we can become the best people we can be. I look at Tefilah the same way. If we want to achieve what is at the peak of Tefilah, and we'll get to that in a minute, you can't just walk into a shul and say, I'm going to daven and I'm going to achieve everything I want to achieve in davening. You gotta go through the steps. And we don't go through the steps. The adults don't go through the steps. We don't teach our children how to go through the steps. There's certain Hasidic sects that go through the steps where they will take 3 hours to prepare themselves for Tefilah. But most of us, we run in, we run out. What is it people call it? The matzah minyan? Yeah. 18 minutes or less? Yeah, it's hard to achieve whatever is the parallel of self-actualization, because in 18 minutes, you can't go through all these steps getting to what the peak of Tefilah should be. Now, we're all fighting against the time. To me, that's what Shabbat is about. Like, my view is, during the week, it's speed dating with God, but on Shabbat, I got time for a good date with God. So everyone understand this paradigm? We're going to figure out together steps that we need to take to achieve the peak of what Tefilah should be. All right, so that was step 1. Let's go to step 2. Step 2 is called the golden circle. Now, the golden circle is a Simon Sinek invention, and after we see part of this video, I'm going to explain what our next steps are going to be.
Explain when things don't go as we assume, or better, how do you How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet, they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight? The Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operated it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way. And it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe.
I think this is one of the reasons that Tefilah doesn't work. That we can't find meaningful Tefilah. Because we all know the what. We are supposed to daven 3 times a day. We're supposed to find it meaningful. We know the how. But how often do we think about the why? And we need to turn it around, and that's one of the things that hopefully we will see here today. So if you turn to page 3 of your handout, you will see the golden circle. Now, I copied the URL, the link for Simon Sinek's talk.
For those of us out here, can people maybe share it?
Yeah.
Maybe it could be emailed to the list.
Sure.
Then we could, as an attachment.
Absolutely. Stuart has it.
Get to asking for your email address. That's fine.
Thank you.
So, so one of the things that we need to figure out is the why. And I don't mean the why because the rabbi said you're supposed to daven 3 times a day. Right? Because at the beginning of Masechet Brachot, it says, what time can you start saying Kriyat Shema? No. The why as it applies to us. So let's take a few minutes to put all of these really smart brains in this room and in the other room to work. What's the purpose of Tefilah? Why do we daven? Why are we mandated to daven? And why do we daven? What is the parallel to the self-actualization of Maslow's hierarchy when it comes to Tefilah? What are we trying to achieve in Tefilah? Ideas? Yeah?
Relationship with Hashem.
A relationship with Hashem?
To be close to Hashem.
To be close to Hashem?
Connection.
Connection? Connection to Hashem?
Hashem, yes. Appreciation of what He's given to us.
Appreciation of what Hashem has given to us.
To remind us who's in control of the world.
To remind us who's in control in the world. Other ideas?
Sometimes when a person davens, he feels that he solves all his emotional problems. When I daven, I feel good, I feel better, like I talk to somebody, and this is what makes me happy.
It's very interesting that you bring that up, Shalva. Rav Soloveitchik, in his book Lonely Man of Faith, talks about existential loneliness. Existential loneliness is the idea, like, have you ever gone to a movie with someone and this movie moved you to your very core, and you come out of the movie and you say, oh, I feel like a different person. Wasn't that incredible? And the person you're with goes, eh. No, don't you understand what happened in there? Yeah, we watched a movie. And you get the feeling that nobody in the world can possibly understand what you go through. Everybody feels existential loneliness sometimes. So Rav Soloveitchik said that the ultimate solution to existential loneliness is to turn to God. Because God is there with you, God will understand. Even if the person you went to the movie with doesn't understand. I mean, it's a loose translation of what the Rav said. He didn't use the movie paradigm. But God will understand. So it's some sort of idea of a connection with God. It's not a new idea. Turn to page 4 of your handouts. And if you don't have a handout, I did put the source over here. We're only going to read the beginning of the source, because the end of the source, hopefully we'll get to in the next session. We're not up to the end of the source yet, but the whole thing goes together. So this is from Chovot HaLevavot, which is part of the core of Musar literature. And this is from Shara Cheshbon HaNefesh. Cheshbon HaNefesh, introspection, taking a look at my own soul. And this is Perek Gimel. Ra'ui lecha, achi, sheteda, ki kavanatenu b'tfilah, eina ki im kalot hanefesh el ha'elokim, uchniata lefanav im romamuta lebor'a, v'shivcha v'hoda'ata lishmo, v'hashlachat kol yava alav. You should know, my brother, that our intent in prayer is only the longing of the soul to God. It's submitting before Him, elevating its Creator, praising and thanking to His name, and casting all of our burdens on Him. So here we have everything together, all together what people said. the connection to God, the understanding that somebody's in charge of the world, the laying down our troubles on God. What do we call this in regular life? We call this dveikut b'Hashem, the clinging of our soul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's our self-actualization in prayer. Is there anybody who disagrees, and it's fine to disagree, who disagrees with that premise? Is there any higher level? Now, I'm now going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, I want to achieve Veikut B'Hashem. So I'm going to open my Art Scroll or Koran, whatever is your choice, Siddur. I'm going to start saying whatever it is I say, and all of a sudden I'll feel this connection to God. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to go through what I term the dispositions. There are dispositions that we need to work our way through and work into our lives that will come to a dveikut b'Hashem. So, for example, in last week's parsha, Kedoshim Tiyu, right? One of the most famous mitzvot, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. But it doesn't start with love your neighbor as yourself. Lo telech rachil b'yamecha, lo tikom v'lo titor, lo tisna et achicha b'lvavecha, ochech tochiach et amitecha, right? Don't be a gossip. Don't bear a grudge. Don't take revenge. Don't hate your brother in your heart. Rebuke your brother. You gotta go through all those things before you can ever come to v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. So we need to figure out, and this is incredibly personal, what are the dispositions that each of us in this room need to go through before we can achieve that dveikut b'Hashem. So if you see the bottom of that page, there's an empty pyramid there. And I want people to, if you don't have a handout, you can just draw yourself a triangle on a piece of paper with lines so that you have sections. On the right side of this on the left side, I'm so directionally challenged. On the left side of this triangle, put Veikut L'Hashem, or clinging to Hashem, on the top, and then think for yourself. What are the dispositions, what are the steps that you would need to achieve emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, before you can achieve that dveikut l'Hashem? So let's take a couple minutes of quiet so people can think and people can write. To thinking this way, and that's why we
No,
want to.
it's more than that. It's because
Can you speak up?
I don't know if I've ever even achieved this, so I don't even know how would I, have I done it? It's not like I can look back at past experience and say, oh, I did this, this, and this, and that's what I should do all the time.
Right.
What ideally should I do? I don't know. I mean, what would work, what would even look like to say that it works? I don't even know.
So what I'm trying to do is reframe everybody's mind, because we don't know how it looks. We don't know what the steps are to get to that dveikut b'Hashem, and there's no recipe. I mean, a lot of the books in the Musar movement tried to give us the recipe, but, you know, if you read Shari Tshuva or Chovot HaLevavot, two totally different recipes, because one worked for one and one worked for the other one.
But I think even for one person, there can be different sequences. I mean, there are times when the first thing I wrote at the bottom was time, because that's one model. And then I thought about the times where, you know, something really horrific is going on, and you don't have time, and you're not calm, and yet I think you can get pretty close for a short time. So you could have the kind where you're relaxed and you're calm and you're focused and everything is good, or you can have the other kind.
On the other hand, who was it who said there are no atheists in foxholes?
That's what I
When
mean.
we're in bad enough
That's what I
shape, we
mean.
find a way to
So you don't need the
do
time,
it.
you don't need the calm, you don't need even perspective, it could be very focused.
Absolutely.
But you need time to be focused.
You need time to be
In
focused.
some cases, yes, in some cases not at all.
It's not a linear
So,
process.
Yeah.
Seems to me that what's lacking in this relationship that we're trying to achieve, that we have in all other relationships, is feedback.
So, what I hear you saying is Tefillah's monologue when it would be easier if it were a dialogue. Beautiful. I feel like I have a ringer in the audience.
But you have to
We
recognize.
did not plan this ahead of time.
You have to recognize the feedback, because there is feedback. And, you know, if you can get yourself to that point of focusing and acknowledging what Hashem has done for you, and even in your prayers to Hashem, whether they're quote answered the way you want to or not, if you can get to that point, you can recognize the feedback, the answers.
So we're going to look now at another video. Because what we're trying to do, like you said, is even start to grapple with what are the steps. But the idea of the steps makes sense, yes? It's just, we don't even know what questions to ask. We don't even know where to start because nobody talks this way when we come to Tefilah. Right? Those of us who went through Jewish day school know. Their Tefilah means, Baruch Shamar Vayalam, blessed be the one who spoke and the world came into being. Now you know what it means. Now go daven, right? We need to connect to it. So this is a fellow named Louis Schwartzberg, who's a photographer. And we're going to look at this video in pieces and then stop along the way and discuss the concepts that he's raised.
Just crank up the volume if you can.
Raise the volume.
Okay,
Thank you.
as soon as it starts. Hopefully the internet is still working. Great.
It's on the flash drive, Sharon, if you want to take
Oh,
it
it
off the
is.
other
With
computer.
the video?
Yeah. The other computer, just pull out of the, on the side, just pull,
Oh, okay.
Pull it out, is it okay?
just pull it out, yeah.
Technology is such a beautiful thing when it works.
Got it.
You know what, Stuart? Should we just flip everything to your computer? Here we go.
Okay. So just, if you could find the doc, yeah. Can you open up the folder with what's in the flash drive?
Anybody have a kid in that house?
Oh yeah, just close that.
Just go.
Good.
There we go.
There you go, yeah, open files, and it's Schwartzberg,
This one?
yeah, I think so.
Two of them on
There you go. Well, that's the audio maybe? There, it's a video. Yeah.
Is that better?
When I graduated UCLA, I moved to Northern California. And I lived in a little town called Elk on the Mendocino coast. And I didn't have a phone or TV, but I had U.S. mail. And life was good back then, if you could remember it. I'd go to the general store for a cup of coffee and a brownie. I'd ship my film to San Francisco, and lo and behold, 2 days later, it would end up on my front door, which was way better than having to fight the traffic of Hollywood. I didn't have much money, but I had time and a sense of wonder. So I started shooting time-lapse photography. It would take me a month to shoot a 4-minute roll of film, because that's all I could afford. I've been shooting time-lapse flowers continuously, non-stop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for over 30 years. And to see them move is a dance I'll never get tired of. Their beauty immerses us with color, taste, touch. It also provides opens our hearts and makes us realize we are a part of nature and we're not separate from it. When we see ourselves in nature, it also connects us to every one of us because it's clear that it's all connected in one. When people see my images, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh my God." Have you ever wondered what that meant? The "oh" means it caught your attention, it makes you present, makes you mindful. The "my" means it connects to something deep inside your soul. It creates a gateway for your inner voice to rise up and be heard. And God is that personal journey we all want to be on, to be inspired.
Oh my God. Oh, it's caught our attention. My, it's something deep inside of me. God, the universal journey that we are all on. How many of us see something like Louis Schwartzberg's visions, and we say, "Oh my God." It's the nature. It's the dialogue that Chaim was talking about. You can see a flower grow, a strawberry come into being on our plates, tasting it as we bite into it, after we acknowledge that this is the work of my God. God is talking to us. One of the dispositions is to look around us and see that dialogue and hear that dialogue in things like the nature pictures that he's taken.
Taste, touch. It also provides a third of the food we eat. Beauty and seduction is nature's tools for survival because we protect what we fall in love with. It opens our hearts and makes us realize we are a part of nature and we're not separate from it. When we see ourselves in nature, it also connects us to every one of us because it's clear that it's all connected in one. When people see my images, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh my God." Have you ever wondered what that meant? The "oh" means it caught your attention, it makes you present, makes you mindful. The "my" means it connects to something deep inside your soul. It creates a gateway for your inner voice to rise up and be heard. And God is that personal journey we all want to be on, to be inspired, to feel like we're connected to a universe that celebrates life. Did you know that 80% of the information we receive comes through our eyes? And if you compare light energy to musical scales, it would only be one octave that the naked eye could see, which is right in the middle. And aren't we grateful for our brains that can, take this electrical impulse that comes from light energy to create images in order for us to explore our world? And aren't we grateful that we have hearts that can feel these vibrations in order for us to allow ourselves to feel the pleasure and the beauty of nature?
So first he talked about nature. He talked about being mindful. He talked about sight versus hearing. He talked about being grateful for the fact that our eyes see and our heart beats. Is that not reflected every single day in what we say when we first rise? But how many of us stop to say, Pokeach Ivrim, my eyes are working. I can behold the wonders of this world because of my connection to God, because of God's love for me, that He gave me eyes. So we now have a number of factors. We have nature, we have mindfulness, we have sight, we have sound, and there's more. Yeah?
I was just gonna say sound, I was particularly noticing the soundtrack that he was playing while he was So I was thinking, gee, if maybe I could have a soundtrack while I'm davening, and that would really, and so like, it's something that could be going on at the same time. I mean, you can't watch nature pictures while I'm davening, but, you know.
But you know, people have tried that. What's it called? Neshama sitter? That has images in
Nahalel.
it.
Nahalel.
What's it called?
Nahalel.
Nahalel. Nahalel Sidor. That's why they did it, for inspiration. That's why, about a year and a half ago, Sherwood Goffin was here, and he was talking about the importance of the tune and which tune you use at which Tefilah, because the music does make a difference. You know, think of the Eitz Chaim Hi that shuls sing while they're doing Hagbah. That would never be the same tune of Eitz Chaim Hi as we're putting away the Torah, because it's the wrong time to have the upbeat tune. When you're putting away the Torah, you need the more solemn Eitz Chaim Hi, even though it's all the same words. So the sights and the sounds make a difference. The environment makes a difference, but not only the sights and the sounds outside of us, the sights and the sounds inside of us. I think that's one of the things that he's trying to say too, to be mindful of the sights and the sounds inside of us. He's going to get to another disposition, which I think is incredibly important. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to watch together with me the rest of this video and let it stimulate the ideas in your own head. What would help you individually and personally, the way Louis Schwartzberg is describing what helps him connect to God and the world?
Nature's beauty is a gift that cultivates appreciation and gratitude. So I have a gift I want to share with you today, a project I'm working on called Happiness Revealed. And it'll give us a glimpse into that perspective from the point of view of a child and an elderly man of that world.
When I watch TV, it's just some shows that are pretend. And when you explore, you get more imagination than you already had. And when you get more imagination, it makes you want to go deeper in, so you can get more and see beautifuler things. Like the path. If it's a path, it could lead you to a beach or something, and it could be beautiful.
Do you think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now, and the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response to the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. think of the weather. And even of the weather, we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, is unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, on this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. You turn a faucet and there is warm water and cold water and drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you, that everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.
So now, what we should do is go back to that pyramid, and on the other side, try the exercise again. What do we need to go through to get to that Dveikut Hashem? He gave us a lot of food for thought here on what we resonate to in order to recognize Hashem, to fulfill our longing for Hashem, to give our cares and our burdens to Hashem. Let's take a few minutes to write those dispositions down again and see if they've changed. If we were talking about making Tefilah meaningful, and I brought this session along so long that people missed Mincha, which is at 8 p.m. So that clock on my computer is actually 5 minutes fast. So it's now 10 to 8, it's not 5 to 8, but we're going to end in 3 minutes, so everyone who wants to make it to Mincha actually can make it to Mincha. What we're going to do next time, if you're interested in continuing this experiment with me, is bring your Sidurim, because we are now going to take these dispositions that you have created for yourself, and we're going to find in the Sidur where we can see those dispositions, where we can connect to those dispositions, and then we're going to broaden the scope, because it's not only individual Dveikut Lashem, it's communal. Where does the community fit in Why do we need set prayers if I just need to connect to Hashem? Why don't I just talk to Hashem all the time? Which I do. But why do we need the keva? Why do we need the established prayers? So we are going to find inspiration when we are standing and saying the same prayers over and over again, hopefully, if and when you come back next week. So, before we end, it was an experiment. Good, bad, or otherwise. If you guys were my students, I would go thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Awesome. Please come back next week and we bring your Sidurim because we're going to explore the Siddur itself given the dispositions that we're coming up with.